Welcome to today's episode of our live sessions. If you're a returning viewer, we want to say thank you for always being here, for always coming back to our show. If it is your first time on the platform, we want to say a big welcome to you. We'd also enjoy you to subscribe to our channel so that you are updated with our online activities. My name is Abimaje Iliojo Grace, and I'm live in the studio with our very own Dr. Ken.
I'm not a pastor.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You would all agree with me that in our day and force to reckon with, or should I say the force to reckon with. So our topic for
That's
today
hot,
is our topic for today is genotype wahala. Genotype has been a source of wahala in our day and time. A lot of relationships have met untimely deaths. A lot of people who felt they had found the one had have had to cut off the relationships because of their genotypes. And there are people who have decided in their lives that to hell with the genotype, whatever comes, comes. And then there are people who are truly concerned. They found the one, but then their genotypes are not so compatible. And they're asking questions like, is there a way out? Is there a solution for us? Is there anything that can be done? These and many more are the things we'll be discussing on our show today. Please stay tuned, stay glued to your screens, and if possible, help us share the videos so that people on your DM, your timeline, and the likes can learn from today's show. So you're welcome, Dr. Ken.
Thank you, Grace.
Are you ready for our questions?
Oh, yeah, you can shoot.
So the first question on our list today is, what does genotype mean?
Oh,
Why is it such a big deal?
genotype.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, so maybe I'll answer the questions the way I want to set it for myself.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I'm an ardent lover of the human genome.
Oh, wow.
And then genotype just means the gene set that makes up an individual.
Yes, sir.
So I want to assume you want to ask what is this kind of genotype we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
I'm also assuming that it's the hemoglobin genotype you wanted to ask. So in that case, I'll break down the question to the very small aspects that concerns your subsequent questions, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
So now, the genotype makes up an individual, makes up a life, and different characters are represented on the genotype that makes us up. But now we're talking of hemoglobin genotype.
Yes, sir.
Hemoglobin genotype is a set of proteins or character that makes up our blood building tissues, organs, or cells.
Okay.
In which case, we're talking about hemoglobin genotype. So that just to narrow it, and we all have genotype with respect to the hemoglobin. And they are different for different people. So there are different kinds of proteins in this hemoglobin genotype, and that gives rise to all the kind of genotypes that we have: the AA genotype, the AS genotype, the SS genotype, and the AC genotype and SC genotypes, and all the abnormal genotypes that we have. But it's important for us to know that these abnormalities are a lot commoner in Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and in the Mediterranean regions of the world, And then Africa, especially Nigeria, is the headquarter.
As usual.
Yes, we know we are headquarters of a lot of good things. We're headquarters. We have the highest load of abnormal genotypes in the world. So this is the epicenter. You can imagine.
But is there a reason why?
Oh, well, the reason why it may be common to imagine, of all the black race, we are the most populous.
Oh, yes, that's true.
So
sir.
it makes sense for us to have
The
highest
number.
number, because we are about 120 to 140 million, in population, and no African countries, or the black race anyway, has this number.
Number.
So it makes sense if we have highest abnormality of the abnormal hemoglobin genotype.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So we'll be moving on to our next question. How accurate are genotype tests in most clinics? There are a lot of people that would say, I checked it in Jews, it was AA. I went to Plateau Hospital, it was AS. I went to Von Christian Hospital, it was SS. And is it from the hospital, or is it my genotype that is changing? And how many times do I need to check my genotype to be sure of what the reading is?
Okay, so this is a very important question
Yes, sir.
because most of the abnormal genotypes I have seen and or rather discovered
Yes, sir.
when already they have celebrated their union and are already living in marriage and are already years into marriage and they thought they are a matching genotype,
Genotype. Yes, sir.
only to find out in the consulting room when they have one fertility challenge and we
With
need
the
to be
other.
sure that they are abnormal and it hits them in the very wrong. They're all shocked. It means they've had normal test laboratory results. So most of the people who discover with abnormal genotypes are those who do not know that, let me say laboratory errors. Yes, a lot of them are laboratory errors. And now the question is, why do these errors
A
occur?
call. Yes.
Now you have this some now we may not be able to rule out lack of experience
True, sir.
amongst those who would be carrying out
The
these
procedures.
procedures,
Yes, sir.
because you have different people with different level of experience and
Yes, sir.
specialization in anything they do. So if you have poor
And yes,
experience,
sir.
chances is that you may misread a genotype. Secondly, the gadgets
Used.
use can have problem identifying a specific kind of genotype, in which case it's gadget related, which
Okay.
still falls down to or boils down to laboratory error. You know, so and then another reason again, it's because it's only one modality of testing that most people do, which is just the electrophoretic testing.
Okay.
You know, so when you do only one modality of testing and that testing shows it is wrong and gives you
A wrong
a wrong
reading.
reading, you don't have another test
Test to do.
modality to run it by or to confirm. So the individual goes by this and then it's wrong. So if we begin to have a different modality of testing in the same laboratory, then our error levels are going to be very reduced. And of course, updating our gadgets,
True,
and make
sir.
sure that our gadgets
Up to
are
date.
up to date,
Yes, sir.
and they are current, and they are being serviced when they require servicing and not managing those
Even our
gadgets.
health workers, making sure that they are
Exact
experienced
experienced
and
health
yes, sir.
workers and make sure that the most experienced person
Yes, carry out.
carry out this genotype testing. Like in my organization, for instance,
Yes, sir.
I do not permit or I do not tolerate a low level lab scientist to report the results. He may run it, but it has to be read by at least two persons and then it then be
Reported by
verified
yeah.
by the head scientists and signs it. So these are level of controls we have. And then we do two kinds of testings. We do
Okay.
the electrophoretic and we do the strip testing.
Oh wow.
That way the errors are reduced. And if at the end of the day we're not comfortable, we may refer to another laboratory
Facility. Yes,
to
sir.
confirm, because you still have some people with a very strange protein abnormality that the movement of this protein in the strips would just be different. So they keep getting different readings at different places. And if you're
Okay.
not sure, then you have a big problem in your
Problem.
hands,
Yes, sir.
because people just go with the results thinking they are what they are not. And then because they have evidence, they go into a relationship with the wrong evidence and they have a wrong matching. And then it becomes a problem in the end of the day. So I think those are some of the reasons. Abnormal laboratory processes is the highest reasons
Okay.
why we think this mismatch, these errors happen.
Okay. So, sir, the next question is similar to the other one. Can genotype change? Is it a possibility that exists? I've had people say, I was AS before, and
Mm-hmm.
then I fasted and prayed, and God changed it to AA, and now I can marry the person I want to be with. Can genotype
No, it
change?
doesn't change. It
Okay, so there's
doesn't. It
nothing
doesn't.
medically speaking that can be done to.
With the current, now I want to answer this question with with care.
Okay.
You know,
Yes, sir.
knowing the current scientific advancement, that we could alter the genes of individuals,
Yes, sir.
especially with the advent of CRISPR and gene editing technology. If I'm looking at the advancement in genetic medicine, for instance,
Yes,
I
sir.
will want to say yes. But if
Okay.
I want to answer it according to the timing that we're in
In.
right now, with
Yes, sir.
respect to our discussions, I'll say no,
No.
genotype does not change. If your genotype is AA, it's going to be AA. If it changed later, it means there was an error
Error somewhere.
altogether from the beginning, or there was you are in the in between. I mean, in the category where their proteins move awkwardly on the strips. So genotype doesn't change.
Change.
It is always what it is. If it changes, it's an error has happened somewhere. So it doesn't change. So
So
I don't know.
viewers, genotype doesn't
It
change.
doesn't change.
So, in the course of your work and practice, have you met couples that have lied to their partners about their genotype? Like, they got married believing, let's say I and you we got married believing that I am AA, and then you find out later in the marriage that I am AS. How do you handle this kind of
Oh
situations?
yeah, very difficult one. I've seen quite a number of couples
Yes, sir.
who got married based on falsified genotype results. The latest one that actually bothered me, bothered on morality. You know, so there's this lady
Yes, sir.
who is very pretty. I mean, pretty by
By every standard.
by by regular world standard, outwardly.
Yes, sir.
And this guy cannot imagine not getting married to
To
this
her.
lady. According to her, he falsified his genotype results. And then what happened was anytime they wanted to do it together, he finds a reason not to do it with her. And of course, she knows hers, and she has hers as a certificate. I'm AS,
AS.
so know what you are before coming close. So it became a problem when one of their kids, they had four kids.
Even got that bad.
Yes, they had four kids. Three were okay. I mean, they were not SS.
Yes,
So
sir.
one is SS and terribly sick all the time. And then she lamented that this was how we got to this point, because I asked the question, how did
How
we
did
get
you? Yes,
here?
sir.
And then that was the story. It was a heartbreaking story. But the question is, there's a life already that has been affected negatively by that decision. So yes, so some people falsify these results so they could just have their way with either a man or a
A
lady. I
woman.
also have another lady, just the same way some guys falsify, ladies also falsify when they are desperate to marry.
Yes, sir.
you know they will not allow the parent of the spouse to have an idea what the genotype is,
Is.
and they want to also cover what the genotype is. And the worst part is if they go ahead to get pregnant casually, then they may be in a big mess. Yeah, sometimes. So people falsify it. But I think I don't know if this sounds right. It's okay to falsify it, you know. But then don't have a kid in that situation. Yes. It's bad enough to tell lies, but it's worse when a child
When someone,
suffers
yes, sir.
from that
Lie.
lying. So if you falsify it, continue falsifying it, and make sure you do an IVF with pre-implantation genetic diagnosis
Yes,
to
sir.
keep covering up so a life doesn't get negatively affected by
Affected.
that falsified result. Okay, it's bad to falsify,
Yes, sir.
but if you are bold enough to falsify and you get away with it, do the right thing, and spare that little baby the pain of having sickle cell disease all his or her life, because it doesn't have a cure. Well, I mean,
Necessarily.
necessarily
Yes,
now
sir.
we know that a cure is prospective. Now it's
Yeah.
available in some part of the world, but in
Yeah.
our region, there is no cure. So some people falsify it. Sure, they do. Bad enough.
Thank you very much for all the answers. So our next question is, why have couples been advised over the years to end relationships because of their genotype incompatibility?
I think it's common sense.
Okay.
You know, they've been advised to end their relationship because of genotype incompatibility. For instance, AS and AS is not compatible, I mean, quote and unquote. For them, it's not compatible because they have risks of about 25% chance of
Yeah.
having an
A sickle
SS
cell.
baby,
Yes, sir.
and that's the reason. And then because it's like a probability, which is like a gamble, you don't want to do some things that would jeopardize the life of
Of
somebody.
somebody else.
We have seen people who
And got
gambled
away with
and
it.
got away with it. They have 4 kids and all the kids
I'm
are
fine.
fine. Then we've seen some other people who had 3 to 4 kids and all
All
of
of
them
them.
are sickle cell. If you're lucky to get away with it, praise the Lord. But not so many people would
Get
get
away
away
with
with
it.
it. And for one life to be affected adversely because of this gamble, I think it's not
It's
going to
not
be
worth
fine. So
it.
if you
Yeah.
gamble it, look for scientific options, by which you could get pregnant and have healthy babies. Otherwise, the gamble wouldn't pay off all the time. Yes. You
Thank
know,
you.
I see a lot of questions like this on my TikTok page. I
Okay.
have some videos on my TikTok pages about genotype and all of that. And then the questions that follows the videos are quite amazing. I feel that a lot of people are having challenges with genotype. And love life relationship can be very difficult to manage, and some are already neck deep into relationship and they don't even know how to break up. And then a good number of them don't even have the funds to do the
Yeah.
right thing on how to get the right set of babies. And so it's just terrible. You know what it is. So it's bad. So a lot of questions come about this. So it's important.
So, sir, is there a way to eliminate this abnormal genotype? Is there something that we can do?
Yes, I think still on my TikTok page, I think
Okay, sir.
I'm doing a lot of talks,
Okay.
or rather, I intend to do a lot of talks on how to eliminate the genotype.
Oh, really?
This sounds like a big
The big,
project,
yes,
a
sir.
big deal. But if we have a lot of social public education, first of all, we can start the process of eliminating it by making the right choices.
Choices.
By making the right choices. If we make the right choices with time, this abnormal genotype can be eliminated.
Eliminate.
You know, so we make choices that doesn't permit the propagation of this. But individuals can't just make these choices. It requires public health practitioners and government involvement if we really value the life of people. And it is a big burden on Nigerian government. Imagine you have up to 10 million individuals
Sickle cell.
living with sickle cell in Nigeria. And that's just the data that you have. There are a lot more who are not captured in this data. So it's a big burden. This population is bigger than some countries. Yeah, some countries are just 3 million, some are 2.5 million, some are less than a million.
Yes,
So
sir.
you have the population of people living with sickle cell in Nigeria could feed or serve up to 4 countries, depending on the
It
population you
even
choose.
overwhelms the health sector.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
And then you know again that life expectancy is
Yes,
poor
yes, sir.
and all of that. The chances of dying early is there. And then the prospect of giving birth, it's very reduced.
Yeah.
And all the complications that follow the life, the strokes and the crisis. So yes, it can be eliminated. Making the right choices it involves the public health practitioners, the government functionaries, and individuals also making conscious effort.
Efforts. Okay,
That's one.
choices.
Secondly,
Yes, sir.
with the advent of genetic medicine, genetic engineering, and all of that, abnormal genes can actually be either deactivated cut off, that's excised and
Okay.
replaced with the normal gene. Of course, genotype
Okay.
is the hemoglobin genotype is a problem with the gene.
Yes, sir.
So you could cut off the abnormal genes, replace it with a healthy gene. Because in in the sickle cell disease, for instance, it's just one protein that replaces another protein in a wrong way. A wrong protein taking the position of another protein, and just these two abnormal proteins staying where they shouldn't stay, a
Causes.
human life has been affected negatively. So yeah, so there are a lot of ways that genes can be deactivated. One, they can be deactivated just if you have the right tools. You can cut them off and and reconnect with the healthy genes. And that is what the CRISPR technology is set to do. And
Oh,
that is
wow.
also the technology that is the cure for
For
sickle cell right now. There is cure for sickle cell right now. It's not in the country. And thanks to the United Kingdom government, I'm talking about England,
yes, sir.
with CRISPR technology, they select 50 individuals monthly
Oh, wow.
in their registry and they run them through the CRISPR treatment, and it cures them of sickle cell by gene editing or modification, deactivation, and all of that. So there's cure for it, just that the cost is humongous. And when we checked the cost the last time with some of my colleagues, it's the cost. It's more than the monthly allocation of some states in Nigeria to cure one.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
But then, it takes the government collaboration
Yeah.
and efforts to get this kind of treatment into our environment. And yesterday, I was talking on a policy television, policy television, where policymakers, government work
Officials.
officials
Yes, sir.
will listen to make decisions. Yeah, I suggested collaboration with international
Organizations.
scientists that engineer and pioneer this technology. So you could find a way to do government collaboration with either private firms or with this country's government in place, and find a way to bring, because how should England be leading? It's a black disease,
Exactly.
so, and we are the headquarters, but some other persons have the cure for it. And I think it's going to be fine if Nigerian government or some government in Africa can put themselves together and have a
Together.
collaboration with these superpowers or scientists and find a way to extend the cure to
Down to
Nigeria
us.
by any means. So those are some ways that this abnormality can
Can
be
be
eliminated. It's
eliminated.
possible to eliminate it. Yes, it's very possible to eliminate it. And it's very easy to eliminate it. But you just need the technicalities to do that. It's as easy as I made it sound.
Thank
So
you
it
very
can be
much, sir.
eliminated. Yeah.
So our next question is, how do you advise someone who finds out he or she is incompatible with his partner and this person is already in love?
Yeah, so first of all, we want to, by the way, I have a lot of churches sending clients for counseling, and I like the way the churches do it because they know that, in the female reproductive rights, you are free to get pregnant whenever you want, however
However
you
you want.
want, by whatever technology is available to you, you know, given the fact that you have the necessary financial power or muscle. So when already they are in love and they are mismatching genotype, I think the first thing they need to do is to see the reproductive geneticist,
Okay.
and then discuss the prospects. I don't subscribe to them ending relationship because you never know. They may just be
The perfect match.
a perfect match. I mean, they have the funds, or there's a fund somewhere that they can utilize. So they can actually get married on the premise that they would decide consciously how to get
Pregnant.
pregnant. And now these are the ways they can get pregnant. First of all, they must make conscious effort not to get pregnant casually. You understand? So that means they have to have good family planning support system, and then pregnancy should be planned, and then they have to decide how they want to get pregnant. But let's talk about the standard way they may want to get pregnant, because I counsel with them all the time.
Okay.
Most times they like to use their gametes. You married this person because you're in love with the person and he's in love with you. So you want to see the resemblance of you in the kids.
Yes, sir.
So they are addicted to their sperms and eggs,
Mm.
to their genetic connections.
Mm.
Yes. So now it's something that they want to compromise, because if you are addicted to that and you want to use your garment to get pregnant, then it means you're ready to do pre-implantation genetic diagnosis,
Mm.
IVF, the most advanced IVF,
Mm.
where you get your eggs and you get the sperms of the partner, fertilize the babies, get the embryos, then do DNA analysis of
Assessment.
all the embryos.
Mm.
Sorry, I use the word DNA analysis just for public understanding.
Mm.
You do it's a pre-implantation genetic analysis. You do a genetic analysis
Mm.
of all the embryos. So that way
Mm.
you see the one that is SS, the one that is AS,
Yes.
the one that is AA.
Mm.
And then you also see the level of abnormality in the embryos. We call that aneuploidy and
Okay.
all of that. Then you
Mm.
can select the healthy ones that is not SS or
Mm.
AS.
Mm.
Then you can put in the,
Implant.
that way they cannot have an abnormal child.
Mm.
They can only have what you transfer into them. And there is no mistake in this,
Mm.
because to see what it is before you transfer it into the woman's uterus.
Mm.
So when she gets pregnant, it's going to be the kind of genotype that you have inserted into the
Into her.
uterine cavity. This modality can also eliminate the abnormal genotypes.
Mm.
Okay, so this one
Yes,
way
sir.
to eliminate it.
Mm.
But this is very expensive. So we
Mm.
talk. If you think you have financial power to do this, fine, good and good. Go ahead, get married. We'll be
Mm.
rooting for you. That's the way we should go. So we shouldn't deny people of the scientific advancements if they
Mm.
have the money. But of
Yeah.
course, you see, this is a costly law. It means
Mm.
anytime you want to have a baby,
You must spend.
you must spend so much. But the good thing is that you may not always have to do this. For instance, we have some couples
Mm.
who have done this, and in one attempt, we were able to generate about 8 normal babies
Mm.
that are not SS. We transferred 2.
Okay.
They got pregnant,
Mm.
and we froze the
The
6.
others.
So it means their next attempt, they don't have to spend that money.
Much. Yes,
We
sir.
just defreeze the baby, the embryos,
Mm.
and we put back in the uterus and hope they become pregnant.
Pregnant.
So you could have all your babies from one fertilization
Mm.
if you have enough oocytes and good embryos that
Mm.
go through the genetic screening and they screen free of sickle cell abnormalities
Mm. Yes, sir.
and aneuploidy abnormalities. Okay, so you can, but if not so, you may have to do
So
that every
every
time,
time.
and then it's a big money. We're talking of something in the range of 14 to 16 million in Nigeria
Mm.
right now. So how many people can afford this kind of money? So if they have,
Mm.
they could go ahead and get
It's
married.
yes.
But there are other options. They can also get married if they are ready to sacrifice one of their gametes. Let's say the guy sacrificed his sperms, decide not to use his sperms,
Mm.
or the lady decide not to use her eggs, or you just follow natural process to decide whose gamete to use.
To
If the lady is
use.
already old,
Mm.
advanced in age, there's no point using her eggs because
Mm.
you have to use donor eggs.
Mm.
So decision comes easy in this regard. It's only
Mm.
when they are young that is a crisis. A girl wants her eggs, the guy wants his sperm. That's a big problem. So they could use donor gamete from somebody who is AA.
Okay.
That way, one of them can use his own gamete,
Mm.
and then the other person use a donor gamete. Then they
Mm.
could have a healthy and normal babies.
Baby.
You know. Then the other one is the possibility of just getting pregnant spontaneously,
Mm.
and then the pregnancy grows to about 10 to 14 weeks.
Mm.
You don't know what you're carrying. Then you go to do what we call the chorionic villus sampling, the
Mm.
CVS, or the amniocentesis
Mm.
with genetic analysis,
Mm.
and see what is the genotype
Of
of
the
the
baby.
baby you're carrying. It involves it's invasive.
Mm.
You take the blood from the placenta or the cord of the baby or the amniotic fluid surrounding the baby. Then you subject it to genetic analysis to know the genotype of the baby. And now the question is, if it turns out to be SS, what
What
do
do
you
you
do?
do?
Most people who do this terminate the pregnancy.
Mm.
And then it's now a question of the morality
Way
of
of.
terminating a life,
Mm.
you know.
Yes, sir.
So they terminate it so they don't have an SS baby.
Baby.
And then they go try again. and then they go do that. So how many more times do they
Do you have to
terminate?
try? Yes,
You
sir.
know, but I have clients who have done that, and then they were fine, and they don't have to terminate. Okay, so it's just all this probability and gamble. So these are the ways to go about all of these things. Should they decide to marry themselves, irrespective of
Of
their genotype,
genotype.
you know. So, but if you ask me, in order of what I would prefer, if they want to use the garment, yes, I love the fact that my son looks like me, walks like me, behaves like me, makes trouble like me, you know. And I think a lot of parents identify with this, So, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis will have been very ideal if they have the funds. Then IVF with gamete donation from one of them or two of them is still okay if they also have the fund. IVF is not that cheap too. Then the third is the one that you have to terminate pregnancy. I don't like that, but if that's what they like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's their business. Okay. So those are the ways to go if they have a genotype mismatch. So they shouldn't just be stopped outrightly, they should be advised,
Seek
But
help.
then mistake still happens. Mistake still happens. In that case, you want to say, hey, please don't get married at all.
Mistakes from who now? The health providers, the couples.
From any, in this case, anyone. Mistake still happens. I mean, they know it and they still go ahead to get married. Family planning fails, you know,
Yes,
and
sir.
all of that. Even occasionally, IVF may not be very precise. The conventional IVF may not be very precise. Laboratory error can follow an IVF procedure. If you do have a laboratory error in in selecting the genotype of the egg donor or the sperm donor, for instance,
Yes,
you
sir.
could have a problem in your hands.
True.
You understand? So, so those are the things. So they can get married, but these are the different kinds of procedures that are available, for them to do if they choose to.
So it's important to be informed before they make those choices.
Exactly.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, sometimes I see people of faith, and they know that they are not matching, and they say that they feel God is going to help them. I was like, okay, you're sitting with the God here,
That's why we said you are the force. To record it.
I guess that's not a very balanced way to make a decision.
True,
They
sir.
feel that God is going to help them. We're not saying God doesn't help, or the force of natures do give help sometimes, and it's luck and all of that. So, but I don't think it's a wise way to make
To
a decision, because a good number of them have said that and have ended up in
please,
error.
yes, sir.
So, who told them in the first place?
It was obviously not God.
Probably the God has changed. So those are all the ways they can go about this thing.
Okay.
But I have something more important, and
Okay, sir.
I've had questions on my TikTok page,
Okay.
and people asking, I am SS and my partner is
Mm,
SS. Can we get married? Man, I think that's the toughest question to answer. I say, no, don't get married, please. No use.
yeah,
No,
I
but
agree, sir.
that's on a lighter note. They can get married, knowing what they both represent. They actually can get married. But then, you know, life expectancy for people living with sickle cell is
Slow.
reduced, is
Yes, sir.
low, and then a woman with SS carrying a pregnancy. In the first place, they shouldn't get
Get pregnant.
pregnant. They can get married, but they
Shouldn't
shouldn't
get
get
pregnant.
pregnant, because even normal pregnancy, I mean, normal babies in the pregnancy for a sickle cell mother is traumatic, because the gynecologist or the obstetrician wouldn't rest.
Yes,
It's
sir.
difficult going through pregnancy with sickle cell disease. Then much more when the baby is also going to be a sickle
Yeah.
cell. What are you trying to achieve? They can get married for companionship,
Sheep.
or for sake of companionship, but not for sake of reproduction. They should get pregnant by egg donation and surrogacy, so they can have healthy babies who have a good prospect of living a good life. As for them, they're already living with sickle cell disease. They should take good care of themselves, love themselves, enjoy their company, and we hope that they live long. So that's just it. So I have all this kind. Then you have AS and AC, for instance. It's a very tricky one now.
Yes, sir.
Marriage should be pre-implantation genetic diagnosis or gamete donation. You know,
Yes, sir.
so there's all these combinations, just the way they can go. It's quite it's a boiling matter in Nigerian social media space. Genotype mismatch, genotype mismatch. I don't know.
So, Said, you said something about surrogacy, but you just said it in
Yeah,
passing.
because
So I'd want you to elaborate on it. I think a lot of people do not really know about surrogacy and do not have an understanding of what it is. Just talk some of it.
yeah, surrogacy just means someone carrying pregnancy for some other person. It is
Okay.
permitted in some part of the world. It's not permitted in some other part of
That's
the
of the
world.
world.
Yeah, and it's I know it's a legal way of getting pregnant.
Pregnant.
I feel if a woman is sickle cell and SS, for instance, she shouldn't
Be made
easily
it
she
pass through
shouldn't
that.
easily agree to be
So,
pregnant because anytime you're pregnant as an SS, it gives concerns to the doctor, concerns to you, concerns
to
to your
your
spouse,
partner,
concerns to your parents and all of
to
that,
the community at
to the
large.
community,
Yes.
and the pregnancy prospect is very poor. And then the risks and chance of having so much complication in pregnancy is high. So if you are an SS, for instance, I feel, and you have the means, I think doing a surrogacy, having someone carry the pregnancy for
For
you,
you.
it's better. Because even after delivery, they have risks of having complication after delivery. So, well, there are a lot of other reasons why surrogacy can be embarked upon, but with respect to
To genotype,
SS,
yes,
it
sir.
is one good reason why you should have surrogacy. I think so.
Thank you very much, sir. So, sir, our next question. Let's talk about those who got married out of ignorance and deceit and then realize they're already pregnant. Okay, I think you've answered this question already, but let me state it again. Are there any advanced tests that can determine the genotype of the baby before birth?
Yes. If they conceive spontaneously, I talked about
Yes, sir.
chorionic villi sampling on
Sampling.
amniocentesis
Yes,
with
sir.
genotype checking for the babies. Yeah, those are done regularly, even in Nigeria. And so you can use that to check what the genotype of the baby.
Yes.
Then you decide what to do with the baby. That's how painful it is.
Yes,
At
sir.
14 weeks, you decide to terminate the pregnancy. So I feel you don't have to go that far. You can go the honorable way
We
doing pre-implantation genetic diagnosis because life is very sacred.
precious. Yeah.
You shouldn't form a life and take it just anyhow. Yeah.
So, in conclusion, sir, what's
Yeah.
your general counsel to the public in relation to the genotype wahala?
The wahala is not about to stop, you know. It's not about to stop. People should check their genotype, and I think they shouldn't just check it once. They should check it in multiple places. I don't think you should take a result, a single, you know, and be double sure that this is a real genotype, and then you can play around with other combination and permutation that you think you have to make. That is my advice. Yes, and if you choose to go against the scientific norm, then be very careful to have a lot of funds to do the right thing.
Thank you very much, sir. So we have a question here or a comment from Mills 477 Millicent. She says, nice questions. I tried mine once and I haven't checked again. It shows AS. Please, how important is intralipid ABI intravenous to the success of implantation?
Okay, for the first question, I think it's okay to check the genotype again
Okay.
and be sure that that is what exactly it is. Check by all modalities and
Okay.
check in a standard laboratory and see that's what it is before you make your moves appropriately in a relationship. And for this person asking about intralipid is just an intravenous solution that you infuse in an individual preparing for embryo transfer. And we have literatures here and there that said it improve on the chances of
Success.
implantation,
Okay.
improve the success of IVF. Okay, we use it
Okay.
quite often in our own facility too, especially when we're dealing with situations of recurrent implantation failures, and
Failures.
also using of intralipid, using of um, um, PRP, that's platelet rich plasma, instillation into the uterine cavity, to improve chances of implantation. We all do all of that. So that's what intralipid is all for. It's important. It's good. If you have to use it, feel free.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's all for now. Thank you very much for being here with us, Dr. Ken.
Yes,
I
thank
really
you.
enjoyed our session. I've
I did
learned a
too.
lot.
Okay.
So thank you, viewers, for being here. Make it a date with us next time. We'll be here live with you on Friday. That's in 2 days' time. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.